Hey everyone! Today's question comes in from Lindsay in Frisco. Lindsay asks, I'm trying to cut down on gluten, but have read that it doesn't make a difference if you're not 100% gluten-free. Is this true? Hey Lindsay! My answer to this, as usual, as all of my answers are, it depends. People with celiac disease should be 100% gluten-free with no question, and I'm pretty sure most people with celiac would rather live without gluten than live with the terrible symptoms that come with gluten consumption, so it's kind of a no-brainer for this crowd. People with inflammatory autoimmune diseases tend to do really well on a gluten-free diet. In these cases, I've seen that even the smallest amount of gluten exposure can really wreak havoc on their symptom picture, and this is because most people with autoimmune diseases tend to make antibodies to gluten. There's a whole lot to this story, and it's outlined in a little more detail in a link that I'm going to share above this video so you can read up on it if you're curious. But it's basically when we make antibodies, they stay around for a little while, so that inflammatory immune response is there, not just when we eat gluten, but for several weeks afterwards. So when you cut down on gluten to improve things like arthritis or Hashimoto's or fibromyalgia, you won't really see much of a difference in symptoms unless you're going 100% gluten-free. Outside of this realm, it's somewhat rare that I prescribe a gluten-free diet, or that I call it by that name, if you will. The reason is that gluten isn't necessarily all of the evil in the food we're eating. If you're trying to be healthier and you switch from eating bread and pasta and cookies every day to just eating gluten-free bread and pasta and cookies every day, you're not really going to go anywhere in your health. We saw this in the 90s when we thought fat-free was better for us, and now we know fat-free just means extra processed, extra sugar, extra chemicals, and extra disgusting. So the same is true for gluten-free cereals and treats and those kind of things that we're seeing in the grocery stores now. If you really want to make health strides, consider removing processed foods from your diet. This will essentially automatically remove gluten. Think about it. Almost everything you buy in the aisles of the grocery store has gluten, and almost everything you buy in the aisles of the grocery store counts as processed food as well. So try sticking to fruits and vegetables and clean meats and whole grains. And by whole grains, I don't mean a package of bread that says whole grain on the package. I mean quinoa and brown rice and legumes and beans, things that you'll often find in the bulk section. If you stick to a low or no processed food diet, you'll surely notice gains in your health, and I truly believe this is why many people who go gluten-free will see a lot of improvement. It's because they're banned from eating some of the junk that comes in a box and have to start cooking with fresh ingredients and the like. I personally don't call myself gluten-free, but I really can't think of, many times where I have gluten, because I just eat kind of a plant-based diet with occasional clean meats. I buy clean, naturally gluten-free grains, and when I make treats, I tend to make them at home with different ingredients like almond flour and honey instead of bleached flour and sugar. So it's not a gluten avoidance per se, it's more focusing on whole foods that keeps me moving. And I do tend to notice when I'm on vacation and I'm having, more traditionally prepared foods, eating out, drinking more beer, that I'll get a flare-up in my arthritis and my joints will get achy and my fingers will swell a little bit. So, it does affect us. It builds up over time. So in summary, I recommend removing processed foods more than I recommend removing gluten, and you'll experience more of a gain in your health and a decrease in negative symptoms, and you'll kind of be gluten-free without really having to focus on it. So it's kind of a better way to think of it. As always, you guys send in your questions to info@hhcdallas.com. Put, question for the videos in the subject or something where we know what you're talking about, and we'll see you with a new question next week.